Hi, my name is Chris McAllister. Welcome to the SightShift podcast. If you've ever found yourself in that tense place of leadership where big goals collide with deep conviction, there's an old word for that. It's called wilderness. And when you're in the wilderness, in the uncertainty, you're in a beautiful place because that's where you can find ancient wisdom. For ambitious, faith-driven leaders, I want you to know there's a way forward and you're not a bad leader to be where you are. We're going to help you in this podcast take all of those moments and use them to make culture your edge in your team, in your organization, in your family.
Well, welcome back into the SightShift podcast. Good to have you along with us for another episode. You know this by now, but just in case you're joining us for the first time, he's Chris. I'm Mark, and we are well into a series around culture. Make Culture Your Edge is the latest book. We're diving into the book and going beyond the content in the book. And today we're going to transition to the third tension point that we see in this culture model around conflict. To date, we've talked about the first two, confusion and resistance. And as I said, today we're going to dive into the third. I wanted to set it up this way first, though. I suspect, in my experience, I suspect also in your experience, what we've seen is that average leaders, typical leaders, are more interested in the confusion resolution and the resistance resolution because they just want to get to the results. Mm-hmm. They just want to get the stuff done. So like the confusion tension point is in the way. The resistance to change is in the way. So let's just get past those and get to the results. But we want to take it a little bit deeper because the leaders that we find the most success working with recognize that it's not just about resolving the confusion or getting past the resistance. The whole point is about deepening the connection, the community, the relationships. And one of the tension points that's inherent in any relationship and can get in the way of good culture is conflict. And so conflict in this context is a way to recognize where relationships need work and for to continue to invest in the community because we know the whole point is building healthy community. You're probably just bursting with things to say at this point.
No, it's a great setup. I mean, it's like what else are the results? Community. And I mean, let's make this, so we want to grow our customer base. We want to grow our business. It's relationships.
Yeah.
Like now people hear that and think, oh, I got to go networking. You know, it's like, take whatever business you have, whatever is the end result of that business. It's more buyers, more engagement, more users, whatever. They're using your services. They're going to hire you. It's relationships. And so the most insane thing to me is to think, let's get through communication and change so we can hit the results. The results are always reflected in relationship. Now, you may not think of an email subscriber as a relationship or whatever, but that's terrible if you don't. It's all relationships. And so I think what I've seen a lot of over the years working with teams is a lot of leaders are going to be naturally wired up to enjoy communication and expression or change and effective strategy development, implementation, operations. Nobody that I've ever worked with that I can think of would say, I love getting into the mess of relationships, right? And so
why do you think that is?
Yeah, exactly.
Rhetorical question.
But yet it's like if this part is missing and if this part isn't kept in heart and mind, I'm going to make this, I'll back it up. Hang with me for a second. It is the fundamental error that is occurring in why your product launch failed and why there's not a heavier adoption. And this is true for us too. I mean, I'll talk vulnerably about it, but like, that's it. And that takes me to another point, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, I really like how you brought the idea of culture to an even bigger sphere, a bigger ring, zooming out a little bit, pinching out, as it were, on a device. Because really what we've been talking about for the most part up to this point is the team, the organization, the business or whatever. But what you're saying is it's beyond that, because people are experiencing us and how we do relationship, and they will benefit or not as a result of that. But the relationships are all around us, not just in the team or the business.
Bingo. I mean, your results are constantly communicating to you the quality of the connection you have to your community. And so, you know, if you think about it internally, you're so excited about the initiative or the strategy, the change, and then results are shown in, did it capture their imagination? Are they pushing back and helping it become better?
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever. So the internal and then the external, you know. And we should do a drinking game with this podcast where if I could work in Manchester Orchestra every episode. No, we won't do that. Maybe we will. Who knows? I love Manchester Orchestra. They're a little known indie rock band. And he said a quote that was really powerful on Pete Holmes' You Made It Weird podcast. And he's not big enough to be on a lot of podcasts. So I was like, yeah, finally I can devour every second of this. And while we're talking through this, just a powerful point to make, he said, you're not smarter than your audience.
Mm.
Now, this is a rock musician saying this. You're not smarter than your audience. And what was so powerful about that statement is he was talking about how when bands go on tour, they're not willing to give the crowd something that makes them feel connected to that artist. Play the hits.
Mm.
Play the hits.
Mm.
They got to play only their new stuff. So even when I roll into rooms, like there's a part of me, and Mark knows this better than anybody in the whole world, dude, the event Friday night,
right?
If somebody would have said, hey, could you give us a model for how we think about ordering our organization around truth? I'd be like, let's talk about that. But I know rolling in, I need to play the hits. I want to help this connection deepen. And so here's the idea. If you're not getting the engagement you want internally, you're not smarter than your audience. They're helping you know where a connection didn't occur. There's plenty of places that we've failed at launching things because we didn't understand the person on the other side well enough. Mm. There's things that have been successful because we worked to understand or got lucky. And you know, I think we're in a place now where it's like we have something we've been working on for years and we know what it does. We see it behind the scenes, but we haven't yet figured out how to articulate it so that connection goes as far as it can. Mm. So anyway, I mean, I get excited about this because it's like, this is the point of all the work. And there are people that just love vision casting. But that's not the point. And if that person just loves vision casting and can't imagine this all the way through in this model, that it's not just about the vision, it's about the deeper connection that occurs because of the vision. There's something distorted in either A, the motive for their vision casting, or B, how thorough the vision really is.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. It's worth saying once again, the whole point is the community. The whole point is the relationship, the connection, whether it's the external connection to vendor, supplier, customer, or the internal connection, colleagues, horizontally, vertically. The whole point is the connection. And it makes me want to think different probably than how I've approached culture in the past. Like, man, how bad is this? Or can it get any worse? To like, how good could it be?
Ooh, yeah.
You know, if the whole point is the connection, then it begins to orient me around how good could this really be? But conflict, the tension point, can get in the way. So let's double click on content, or on conflict here for a bit, if we can. There are a couple things that were in the book that I want to just draw out as maybe some starting points, and then I want to ask you to expand on a couple of questions that come up for me as I'm thinking through this. So a couple of things that stand out from the book. Most leaders say they want open dialogue, but what they really want is conformity
Mm.
and obedience.
Yeah.
And the other thing is when honesty is punished, nobody speaks up.
Mm-hmm.
Take off on both of those two
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
ideas.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people. I think there's gradient levels. Like at one level, people say, "Oh, I want open dialogue because I want the validation of my ideas." So, like, they don't even know they're doing it. They're leading more for validation than impact. And I need the acceptance and excitement and gregariousness around my ideas so I can feel like I'm doing a good job.
Tell me how
I can feel
great
like
this is.
Exactly. Feel like I'm contributing, which we talked about that in the communication piece. So you can go back in those earlier episodes to see what a terrible way that is to index signal over noise. There's a second gradient level, which is like, I want open dialogue because I want you to flesh out what you really think so I can manipulate you into thinking my way. And oh man, if you have ever worked for or with a very, very extremely manipulative leader, I mean, we just moved into a new house. I'm putting a chair together. It's like, I think the first night there, putting a chair together so we could sit at the dining table, and already the security sales guy is at the door. Like, just our first day. Mark, it was freaking crazy. And my wife, she's so sweet and loving.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm up at the door, but I couldn't because I put this chair together.
Yeah.
So she's at the door, and she's like, "Oh, thank you." And he was like, "Yeah, I was supposed to be at your closing, but they didn't he ain't supposed to be at our closing."
Yep.
Killer line. Good
Yep.
job. But all that to say, like, I had to handle this in such a way that I did have to be very influential because he wasn't taking no for an answer.
Direct.
Right? So it's just honest and direct. What manipulative leaders are doing is they're trying to draw out the words you're using, and they're trying to figure out what you really want, and they're trying to figure out how to mirror and match your words. And so they don't really want honest dialogue, right? I think there's a third level beyond that, which is this. And this is what I've seen in modern work today. People don't feel enough impact in their sense of mission. And so they're looking for validation, and they want to feel like they're performative virtue signaling. They're a part of this modern world we live in. So share your pain so I can speak to it. And I want to be the chief therapy officer, And again, it's not like this is all the time happening, but I have definitely seen situations where then people kick into this mode, and I'm just like, this is so gross because this isn't who you are, and this isn't how you want to lead, and you're showing up this way. Here's how to know if you really want honest dialogue. Are you willing to receive the feedback that improves it, even if it's something you care a lot about? Now, there's a tension point here, and that's why all these are tension points.
Yep.
Because you do have to be able to hold the vision on things, and there are things that you have to be willing to say, the team may be against this, but this is what we got to do. But if you're in a healthy team, these kinds of conversations are happening. This is what I'm convinced of. Change my mind. Oh, you didn't change my mind. We're still going to do it. Or this is what I'm convinced of. Change my mind. Make it better. Oh, you changed it and made it better. Or you came with something completely I wasn't even thinking of. Right? All of those kind of things are normal phrases to use in a healthy culture where open dialogue is accepted. And that for me is a big red flag when somebody's moving in one of those three gradient levels.
Yeah. So then keep the conversation going. This will set up well some of the questions. But when honest feedback comes up and there's a sense of the person who spoke that honest feedback is now punished in whatever that looks like.
I forgot about that part.
That's okay. I've been on those teams. Like, it's taking me back to memories. Like, everybody's suddenly looking away, looking down. I got an urgent email that I need to respond. Like, nobody wants to be the person that spoke up and got punished for speaking up.
Yeah. You have to, it's a cliche. Cliches stick around because they're true. Don't shoot the messenger. And the first time I was in a meeting that I was taking over that was led by a previous person, and it was an extremely dysfunctional team. It was the first team that I ever took over that I would call just extremely broken and dysfunctional. Most of the teams I've led, I've started. And the first time somebody said, "That's stupid," I went over the top and high-fived them. I mean, I made it uncomfortable for everybody how exaggerated my celebration was, because I wanted them to know that would never happen. You would never be shot for telling the truth. So I think you have to say, A, if you have ever done that, you've got to apologize and make it right. If it's pervasive in your culture, B, I would develop an award around it. Like I would develop a really silly award. I would get a big stuffed elephant. ChatGPT this, get 10 better ideas. But I'd get a big giant stuffed elephant, and anytime somebody told the truth, I'd hug the elephant or have them hug the elephant. Right? You're trying to ritualize and memorialize this in people's minds. And third, once it's in place, so if you're already doing it, that it's in place, that's great. You just keep celebrating it, because what you celebrate gets repeated, you know. And if you stop celebrating it, you say, "Well, I've celebrated it." You can't just do it once. You do it over and over and over again.
Cue classic marriage reference, yeah. Right? Wedding day reference. I told you I loved you on the wedding day.
Exactly.
If and when that changes, I'll let you know.
Yeah. And this is why it blows my mind that organizations don't have meetings systems. Because if you don't have meeting systems, you don't have connection. That's the third piece. And when your organization is in high growth or high change or a big challenge is happening, if you're not having regular meetings, people lose heart. They lose the vision. They don't know why the changes are happening, and connection falls into disrepair. And then you have unnecessary conflict.
Yeah.
And all that conflict starts collecting, and then you have an organization that has layers of 17 different things of bitterness between people that you don't even know exists. And Martha did this with the copier one time, and Bill did this with his office chair. And it freaking doesn't even matter, but it's the same way a marriage couple moralizes how you load the dishwasher. It's the same thing. And then you get breeding conflict all around that. And I do load it better than my wife, but she knows it.
Of course you do.
She's like, "Why don't you load it then?" I'm like, "Dang it. Backfired."
Yeah, exactly. So you're taking me back to 20 years ago. I switched organizations, joined a different company, but in a similar role. Some of the same players I had worked with at the previous company had migrated over there. So I knew some of the players, but I didn't know the CFO of the organization on the way in. And man, this dude he was hard.
Yeah.
He was really hard. He was all data. He was no emotion. He had no desire for connection. And you know, when he just wanted results and he wanted things done his way. So there was limited flexibility, creativity, and he rode one of these guys, one of my colleagues, just really hard. And this guy didn't handle it well. Physically, he developed symptoms like stomach ulcers and other things. Yeah. So like there was multiple things happening at the same time here. But the CFO was hard. And there was no relationship connection with him. And this guy loved red pens. So he would print out documents for presentations, weekly, monthly, quarterly financial reviews. He would print out the documents. He would mark them up with red pens. And then he would deliver them like a failed test onto the student's desk and fix all this. He had a whole cabinet full of red pens. Well, this one guy that he was riding hard, one day just got so fed up and he's like, "I'm going to dump all the red pens." So it was just his simple protest pushback in like, I can't fully confront him and address the conflict. It's simmering. I'm going to throw out all the red pens so he has no red pens for a brief period of time.
Yeah.
Both of leader, CFO didn't care about the connection. The other guy didn't handle the conflict well. And it was just so obvious to everyone around. Like, this is just a hard place to be.
And it steals. So this is the idea to really make sure the model's sinking in for people. The connection broke because the system didn't have meaning. How much more powerful if he would have said, "Hey, look, I want you to be at your absolute best. I only want work that's excellent. After you work with me, what I've found 3 to 4 years, people can stay with me and roll along or go build your own career. Here's what that's going to look like. If you like that, I'm going to coach you to your best. I'm going to mark things up menacingly with a red pen. I will have the highest standard of perfection. And that red pen is not your enemy. It's your gateway to your future. What's that do to connection, right? You can use the same system. Just put meaning behind it and then let the connection. And then that person is like, I freaking love the red pen. This is how I get better. I mean, I think too much in business. This is why, you look at like the NFL. They're not like, get better. They're like, you got to come off the line 0.026 seconds faster than that guy because he's the fastest. Mm-hmm. It's such, and finances are so precise and leadership is so nebulous. But with this culture model, there doesn't have to be a nebulous approach anymore. Like you can lock this in. I also want one of the antacid companies to hire me as their CMO. I'm gonna give them a $10 million idea to grow their business like crazy. Just start seeding conflict through random emails that you scrape off the internet and get their URLs at the end and have them start like talking crap about each other randomly if you hacked into their database and scammed them, and then they get mad at each other and all this conflict, and then they're going and buying antacid medicine.
I said this the other day, and there goes Chris.
Yeah, because I also had a red pen marketing idea. You're stupid, or they're stupid, you're smart. And then anyway. But that's if he can't give meaning to it like that, there's an insecurity in him to lead for his own validation 100%. And prove he knows.
Guarantee. More. I was not in all the conversations.
Sure.
Guarantee that one didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been around the block on this.
Right. So one of the things I wanted to draw out a little further is, when you think about conflict, managing conflict, navigating conflict, handling difficult situations, I think we're coming at it from a different angle. There's fantastic tools out there for conflict resolution, conflict communication. There's the nonviolent communication stuff. There's the crucial conversations. Even disc profiles are used to help navigate conflict. We're coming at it from a different way, though. And I'd love to just draw that out of you. What makes the way we're coming at this content different than those tools that already exist out there?
I might miss where you're headed with this, because I really, and Mark knows this, I don't know that I'm doing things different. So, I'm never like this is what's out there, this is what should exist. I'm just trying to look at those things that like stay around for a long time. We've talked about that before. We talk about that a lot. 7.5 of the top 10 leadership studies or psychological studies that affect business leadership the most have been debunked, which is crazy. So what stays? So for me, the way that I'm looking at conflict that I think is different is how can I enjoy this relationship? Like if relationships are good, life is good. If relationships are bad, life is bad. That's generally what we're doing in our minds. Yes, circumstances have an effect on us, and I don't take away from that, of course. And so the only way I'm having a quality relationship with somebody is if I'm willing to be changed by them, to become different than I am today. And who I'm around is who I'm going to become. So if I'm leading with vision of we'll just talk personally. If I know who I am and I'm clear in what I'm trying to do in the world, that then shapes my relationships, right? Marriage, parenting, business, leadership, everything. So then conflict is not something that becomes, oh my gosh, we have conflict. We shouldn't have conflict. And we just need to figure out, how to get this to go away at all costs. It's like, no. We're about to figure out something really deep. We're about to figure out what the needs are. And we'll get into this more in the next session. What is the emotion here and what vulnerable expressions need to occur? Because the cocktail of all that is going to make me better than I am today. And that's not even selfish or altruistic. It's just this: you'll never fully become the most whole version of yourself without deep relationships that you've committed to, that there's an accountability and there's a vulnerability. Because if you don't have those things, you'll never go as far as you can. And that's why this transcends the extroversion introversion conversation. Because it doesn't mean, because we bias towards extroversion in leadership so much, and in the West. You want 3 people you roll deep with. 1. You want a room of 100 you roll deep with. You want a room of 1,000 and you roll deep with 20. It doesn't matter to me. If it's not coming out of knowing who you are and a clear sense of what you're doing in the world, there's no point in journeying in those relationships. And so, anyway, that may have been where you were headed. Or it may not have been.
Well, let me connect a couple of threads. So you mentioned earlier impact versus validation. You also talked about manipulation.
Yeah.
If the solution to conflict is just resolve it, get a couple parties at the table, work through a script or a tool set or a skill set, then it's further downstream of the work that really needs to take place upstream internally at the mindset or the identity level.
That's the best summary to what I just said. You said it better in a succinct way.
Yeah. So again, we like to think of the content, the work that we do as complementary to the tools that are out there, and helping you to develop the skills to wield the tools well. But all tools can be used for harm, for
Great
good
metaphor.
or good or for harm. And so unless the mindset work is done first, to put the tool in the hand risks harm being done through manipulation or self-validation.
Yeah, I'll give an example that's coming to mind. We haven't talked about it in this content. It's another part of our world we've been talking about it. Making boundaries. Okay, so that's a skill. There's a ton of tool sets out for how to make boundaries, right? Which would apply to this relationship piece. You could be super insecure and doing things for your own validation. And the point of boundaries is to express your power and to try to extend your convictions and diminish or erase the other, which is pretty much where race conversations break down in our world today. You have to be able to extend your conviction without erasing or diminishing the other. That's a mindset about boundaries that has to translate to a skill set. So to use your metaphor, which I love, you know how to use a hammer to put nails in to build a structure versus destroy people, make people feel small. And most of what's happening in a conversation around boundaries at the common street level, as I see it in meetings where things get tense, is bad mindset. I don't like how I feel right now. Walls up. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that out.
So we'll just repeat something that we've been saying throughout this whole series of conversations. These tension points, whether it's confusion, resistance, or now we're into conflict, they're not threats.
Yeah.
And if they're not interpreted as threats, rather they're interpreted as signals, clues, opportunities, which requires mindset work. Then they can be doors to deepen connections, to grow, rather than the threat to be extinguished or to avoid and hide from. It makes me think of the ancient proverb from wisdom literature that as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. That has been a proverb that I've enjoyed for a long time intellectually. But it wasn't all that long ago that I realized the process of sharpening something, it creates heat, there's friction. Sometimes there are sparks and fire that are given off, but only through that friction and heat and tension can one instrument be sharpened by another. That's when it became, for me, like experiential understanding. This isn't just some wise statement. This is like, oh, conflict, pushback, disagreement, wrestling with ideas and thoughts. This is how it gets better. But it comes with some heat and some friction. Yeah. And if our mindset isn't right, we can't handle those moments well to produce the wisdom that's there.
So Dark Chris says, fight us in the comments so we can get better. Man, I love it. I think that's the good spot to say, think on these things, because what we could do in the next episode is define the 3 places the heat occurs.
Yeah, right on. We'll call those risk factors. So just a couple thoughts, I guess, as we close this episode. I would say, maybe you'd say it different, but I would say it's the leader's job, your job, to create the environments where healthy conflict can happen.
Yeah.
Would it be too far to say where healthy conflict can flourish?
Ooh.
To create those moments of insight, wisdom, and deepening connection. But it requires the mindset work to take place. So as you go through about your day, your week, your next time period, notice those moments where conflict is happening. And again, translate them not as threats, but as opportunities to lean in, to understand better, and to use those moments of friction and tension as iron sharpens iron, so that you and the other party, the team, the organization, the family can all be sharpened as well.
I have a thought, and the plane's landing, so I'm just giving them peanuts on the way out the door.
Great.
If you love truth, if you fall in love with truth, you will not take people's truth as a threat. I want to know what's landing, how they're experiencing it. It may not be what we need to build around, and it may be. If you fall in love with truth, you'll want the truth so bad, you'll get over the pain of what that truth does to you when it comes as feedback.
That's enough to chew on right there. That's more than peanuts. That's like a come fly with us free once again. All right. Well, any other than...
No.
Okay,
that's
great.
It.
Well, next time, we're headed into a double click on conflict, looking at the 3 risk factors associated with conflict and how you can dial in a focus even more clear on what to pay attention to and understand people and organization and movement around conflict and connection even better. In the meantime, you've heard me say this before, I'll say it again. If you don't have a copy of the book, grab your copy. If you want to learn more, go to makecultureyouredge.com and follow us there. And there's always more at SightShift, SIGHT shift.com. We'll see you again next time.
Peace out, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us on the SightShift podcast. I hope in some way we've encouraged you to face, lean into, and become aware of the moments that represent so much transformation possibility. If you want more, you can always go to SightShift, SIGHT shift.com, and learn to make culture your edge.